Welcome to BBC Points West with Amanda Parr and David Garmston.
Our main story tonight: has Liam Fox met his match?
Welcome to Bristol Robotics Laboratory of the University of the West of England. I hope you enjoy your visit and have a productive Board of Trade meeting.
He was greeted by a robot in Bristol, but are the EU talks malfunctioning in Brussels?
Our other headlines tonight: her brave soldier, a mother's taking part in the Great South Run in honour of her son.
I always used to say failure is not an option and there's no such word as can't. And, you know, you can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it.
11 arrests as police target drugs and find car wash workers who may be victims of modern-day slavery.
And how Strictly Come Dancing helped Claudia in Montreal. She joins us in the studio with her medal.
Good evening. The minister who's responsible for making new trade deals after Brexit says Bristol is key to the UK's success after we leave the EU. He was talking at the University of the West of England, where they're doing leading research on robot technology.
Well, in July, Mr Fox said the EU negotiations should be the easiest in history. Today, those talks seem to have stalled again. Let's join our business correspondent, Dave Harvey, who's been talking to Liam Fox. Dave.
Good evening, David. Yes, when politicians want their message to scream technology, they often come here to the very high-tech Bristol Robotics Lab, the biggest of its kind in Europe. High-tech, high precision. I'm not going to touch this particular machine, which is used in advanced research and all kinds of other things, a world away from the 18th century Board of Trade, which was set up back then to oversee Britain's growing empire, much of it built on trade, of course, much of that going through the port of Bristol. But they came together today when the North Somerset MP, Liam Fox, came here to reconvene the Board of Trade, and he was met, well, as you've heard, with a very 21st century welcome.
Welcome to Bristol Robotics Laboratory of the University of the West of England. Dear Dr. Fox, I'm Pepper.
Liam Fox and no less than 3 other Secretaries of State had a great tour of the place, and I have to say, as ever, they were pretty much blown away by the technology on show here. Drones that fly themselves, robots that will help people perhaps with assisted living in their care homes when they're much older. What was all this for? Well, they'd come here to reconvene, as I say, this Board of Trade, a very old idea, he says, for the new world. And when that meeting took place, well, it was the first one, shall we say, for quite a while.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the first working meeting of the United Kingdom Board of Trade since the 19th century.
So what will this Board of Trade do? Well, what they're trying to do is keep the focus on lots of mechanics, lots of very serious trade issues. Of course, what everybody in the West Country who's exporting around the world really wants to know is how we're going to do business with our nearest trading destination, namely Europe, after Brexit. And he certainly couldn't avoid questions on that later, as I found out when I talked to one of the leading people in this business in this part of the world, Rob Harvey from Business West.
It's really good to see government are putting some real serious thought into international trade, and we now have a Secretary of State for Trade rather than some junior ministers who are sitting in middle-tier government departments. Europe is by far our biggest market, and companies dealing in Europe are facing the uncertainty of Brexit and the uncertainty of our ongoing relationship with Europe. They really need some level of certainty so that they can plan their future in Europe.
And that is code. Privately, people tell me that really a lot of investment decisions and decisions to go after new markets in Europe and beyond are kind of on ice at the moment as businesses wonder what the rules of the world trading situation will be for this country. So when I caught up with Liam Fox, I certainly had plenty of questions for him. But first, very simply, why reconvene the Board of Trade right here in Bristol?
Well, I want to get the whole concept of trade away from our debates, policy focus in London, I want to get it out to the whole of the United Kingdom. I want people to understand the benefits that trade can bring. And where else to begin than in a city that is the only real net contributor to the UK economy outside London itself. The tremendous success of Bristol, when we look around what we have here, not just the success of our aerospace and defence industry, but the collaboration with our universities is what has actually created the ability for us to generate the success that we have today.
I talk to many companies around here and they say, that's great, half our trade goes to Europe and we really want to know what's happening, what will the rules be? Everything seems to be deadlocked. Can you give them any idea of where things are going?
Well, we want to get into the second stage of negotiations about that final state. And that is what businesses tell me all the time. It's what businesses in Europe tell me all the time. It's what investors into Europe tell me all the time. And my message to them is, go and tell our European partners, go and tell the Commission, Britain is ready to be in that conversation. I hope they will be too as soon as possible.
And if they do mess around, is it just time to walk away and go free trade, which has always been your love, hasn't it? A free trading nation.
We are a great champion of free trade in this country. We want to see greater trade liberalisation because in recent years, actually more and more barriers are being put up. And remember, according to the European Union's own statistics, 90% of growth in the global economy in the next 10 to 15 years will be outside Europe. We need to be in those markets.
Finally, Secretary of State, you've seen an awful lot of robots today. I don't know if there's any you've seen that you fancy. We're always hearing robots might take over our jobs. Have you spotted a robot politician out there in the making?
No, but I really did fancy this flexible exoskeleton that's actually going to make you stronger, particularly as you get older. And for those of us who are finding less time for the gym than we ought, that's a really serious Christmas present for the future.
A very well-disciplined Liam Fox there. Whatever the reports of cabinet divisions over Brexit, I think it's fair to say that the government line is very well programmed at the moment. Yeah, don't you agree? My robot friend seems to agree that automated responses are in order. Back to you.
Dave Harvey and friend, thank you very much.
11 Albanian men have been arrested in 2 days of coordinated police raids targeting organised crime groups in Gloucestershire. A number of large cannabis farms were shut down and workers at car washes spoken to suspected of being victims of modern-day slavery.
A 17-year-old girl was also found to be working in what police describe as inappropriate circumstances. Here's our Gloucestershire reporter, Steve Nibbs.
6 a.m. in Gloucester and several simultaneous raids across the city.
We're asking for conspiracy to supply cannabis and money laundering.
The first arrests, those suspected of being at the top of Albanian organised crime gangs. Then police move on to the cannabis farms set up in residential homes on a huge scale. Here, every room was full of plants. The ventilation system like something from a sci-fi movie, and handwritten instructions in Albanian for cultivating the plants. The alleged farmer was arrested. Not far away, it wasn't difficult to spot this cannabis farm. The glow was from 40 600-watt hydroponic lamps inside, powered by electricity bypassed around the meter, enough to power 4 homes.
The one thing you notice stood here is the stench coming from inside the house. Police think this could be one of the biggest cannabis farms found in Gloucestershire in recent years, and each of those plants is worth around £800 to £1,000, and there could be £100,000 worth of cannabis in this house alone.
This is one of the best I've ever seen, but you know, my experience varies compared to others, but this is one of the best I've seen. Very, very professional.
This farm was opposite a primary school and soon attracted attention.
Everybody else got a 3-piece suite in their front room and they've got all that.
But there were also calls for the community here to try and make something positive from these raids.
It's right on our doorstep, and it could be my children, it could be their children. Do they really want to stand by and let this happen, knowing that their children can get caught up in this? So it is our responsibility because we want our children to do well.
The living conditions inside the cannabis farms were squalid at best. It highlights one of the main concerns of this operation, possible modern-day slavery and exploitation.
A lot of these gang masters that look after these individuals, they take their papers away from them, they don't allow them to leave the premises, they charge them excessively for food and rent. All those sorts of things go towards exploitation.
You have reached your destination. With that in mind, on to day 2, when car washes were visited to check on workers possibly linked to the Albanian gang. Safeguarding measures were put in place to help a 17-year-old girl found working in inappropriate circumstances at one of the sites. In all, 11 Albanian men were arrested and 6 large cannabis farms shut down. The plants, thought to be worth £750,000, were all destroyed. A major disruption, say police, to organised crime and drug supply in the county. Steve Nibbs, BBC Points West, Gloucester.
And Steve is live for us now, inside, I should say, Compass House Custody Suite in Gloucester, where those arrested are being held. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, David. The first time we've been live inside here, actually, and this is a fast-moving operation. A lot of them still being questioned. Some charging decisions which you hear about as well. With me is Detective Chief Inspector Julie Mackay, who's the Gold Commander on this. Julie, this was one of the biggest operations, coordinated operations I've seen you do in recent years. What were this Albanian crime gang allegedly up to?
Yeah, so the purpose today then was to dismantle the organised crime group. You've been out with us, you've seen what they're up to. Their focus has been around the production of cannabis, large-scale production of cannabis, and then hand in glove with that for us is around the human trafficking and the modern-day slavery and the vulnerable people that they tend to prey on in order to be their gardeners or, as you saw today, at the car washes. So looking at those people as well and making sure we protect our communities.
And this comes off the back of a pretty damning HMIC report a couple of years ago saying that you weren't doing enough to tackle organised crime. I suppose this is you proving that you are now.
Absolutely. I mean, we embrace the HMIC. They're there, they do a job, they gave us some recommendations. We've taken it all on board, and you can see that we've delivered on that today. We've worked with our neighbourhoods, we've protected our vulnerable people, huge work with partners. You know, the briefings over the last 2 days that you've had access to, all the different agencies working together to dismantle this group.
Okay, Julie, very briefly, you've had some charging decisions from the CPS on some of those you've arrested.
Yes, so we've just secured 6 charging decisions. That's in relation to the people we call the gardeners, so those at the cannabis factories who are making sure that they are maintained so that they can then be cropped. And we're just engaging with our partners now at the CPS around the other people that are in custody.
Okay. Julie, thanks for joining us tonight. So 2 very busy days for everybody, the police and the media on these operations, but this is an investigation that is still very much ongoing.
OK, Steve, thank you very much. Now you're watching Thursday's Points West. It's Amanda and David with you this evening.
Welcome along. Still to come, we won't be skittled out. Why this group of Gloucestershire pubgoers is sticking up for tradition.
And from bling to bronze, Claudia Fragapani is in the house to tell us how she turned her Strictly moves into a medal.
Before that, the mother of a Wiltshire soldier who was killed during a training exercise has spoken of her determination to keep his memory alive.
Corporal Matthew Hatfield died in a tank explosion at the Castle Martin Ranges in Wales in the summer. He was only 27. Fran Chandler is training for the Great South Run in his honour, and this is her story.
He was a perfect son to me. He was larger than life. He was funny. He was kind. He was my best friend, really. We grew up in Everley, and the army was everywhere, and it was all he ever talked about, all he wanted to be. He used to march us all around the house with calendars on our heads and shout at his sister for not keeping up, even though she'd only just learnt to walk. I get times when it goes quiet and I'll sit here and have a good cry. Little things set you off. They just come up from nowhere, a song or a programme. It's like Peaky Blinders is coming back on. I think, oh, I must tell Matt. And you think, no, I can't tell Matt. And it's just little things like that. And that gets to you. We've gone through things when he'd gone off to war about what needed to be done, if anything should happen, and what to do. And we could be sad, but you don't grieve him. You've got to carry on and live your life to the full and live every second and don't waste any of it. After the funeral, I suppose you're busy and you're organising and things are happening, and then after the funeral things go quiet, and then you think, well, now what? Now where do we go from here? And it sort of leaves a big hole, and this is when we decided that we needed something to focus on, so we picked the Great South Run. It's raising money for a cause that was close to his heart. He always, he sort of said that Help for Heroes was brilliant, but people forgot about the British Legion. They'd done an awful lot behind the scenes, and it was very close to his heart. And I thought, well, that is the first one that we will do something for, and it will keep his memory alive. And we want to do as many things as we can in the future to keep his memory going. He will be shouting and making you go. I can always hear him when I start flagging. He always used to say, failure is not an option, and there's no such word as can't. And, you know, you can do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it.
What a wonderful way to remember him. Thanks for sharing with us. Now, Public Health England has confirmed a case of meningitis B at the University of Bristol. The student is currently receiving treatment. Antibiotics are also being given as a precaution to those who've been in close contact. The student is recovering well.
A burglar in Gloucester who's been convicted of 122 offences has today been jailed for 3 more. It includes breaking into Sports Direct, where Michael Le Bon was found with a broken arm in a loading area. The police hadn't spotted him when they searched the shop, but they were alerted by his groans when they returned with the contractor to board up a window.
A centre in Bristol which helps children with dyslexia is now reaching young people in every continent across the world.
And the school, which started 30 years ago, is about to open a new centre in Texas, as Imogen Sellers reports.
It started out from this family home in Bristol and Pat Jones's desperate need to help her dyslexic son Mike.
Everyone else was doing really well. They were going up from book to book. I couldn't get past book 1. And I felt really stupid. And then when it came to doing spelling, we tested on the spellings we had to learn, and I was getting them all wrong, even though I was copying from my friend. I couldn't even copy right.
So Mike was taught at home and flourished. 30 years on, and his mum Pat says attitudes are improving.
There is still a bit of a stigma, but that's what we hope to reduce. And that's the first thing I always tell children when they come in for a consultation here. I automatically say, it's not an illness. It's not something wrong with you. It's just a different way of learning.
A small homeschool became the Bristol Dyslexia Centre, and their simple method of teaching children to read and write has now gone global. From the games that helped him, Mike went on to develop Nessie, an animated programme to engage children who struggle to learn in traditional ways. 10-year-old Elvie says he now enjoys reading and writing for the first time.
Basically, we just have fun. We just make fun into more fun.
Nuns run very well. There's a camel with an M.
Nessie is now used by nearly 500,000 children online across the world.
It just came out of the love of a mother wanting to help her child, and that grew into the school becoming a centre of excellence around the world. I mean, it's world-renowned.
And this month, the first Nessie Centre outside the UK will open in Texas. Imogen Sellers, BBC Points West, Bristol.
It does look fun.
It
They've done
does.
phenomenally well.
Now, you can't beat it, can you? A glass of beer, a sausage roll and a game of Skittles. Throw in a pickled egg and Amanda is happy. But there are fears the traditional West Country game of Skittles could be dying out. In Gloucester, the city's charity league has halved in size over the last decade.
I do like a pickled egg, actually. I
thought so.
Now, they say it's because Skittle alleys are closing and fewer players are taking it up. Pride of our alley, Natasha Turney reports.
9 pins, 3 balls and 2 teams. A weekly match for Gloucester Charity Skittles League. Playing for the Bulldogs, Alan Cale. At 70, he's a veteran skittler of over 50 years. Sean Jackson, he's in his 40s and has been a member for around 20 years.
And then there's me. This is my team. I'm one of the younger players and don't play every week, but I'm drafted in when there aren't enough people to fill a team.
And that's where the problem lies.
We were struggling for members at the beginning of this season, and we had to recruit more, else we were in danger of folding. And I didn't want that. That's the last thing I wanted.
It's a long-running tradition in the West Country, with skittles dating back to the 1940s.
We believe the game originated first of all through people throwing cheeses and sticks in local barns, and then it sort of escalated where we moved into pubs and people played in teams with balls and skittle pins like we have now.
But with alleys closing, older players retiring and few younger people joining, these are worrying times for the sport. In the last 10 years, the number of divisions within Gloucester's Charity League has dropped from 11 to 7. The number of players within that has almost halved. So why aren't more people joining up?
I think that it could be seen as like an old person sport. I hadn't personally heard of the sport until I met my husband, who plays the sport and has played for quite a long time.
There is far more provisions out there for younger people, rather than come in and play what is really could be termed a rather ancient game.
Well, it's that perception that the league are hoping to change.
If you get a young one that's sticking up, then perhaps they want to come on to the team as well.
It would be a good night out for them.
Yeah. So with more young people needed to keep the sport alive, what does the future look like?
Well, if that's anything to go by, I definitely need to up my game. Natasha Turney, BBC Points West, Gloucester.
Yes, I don't think she's going to worry the sticker-upper too much.
I think we need to send her back for a bit more training myself. Now then, we know and we love her as Bristol's own pocket rocket gymnast. And this week, she zoomed back to the West with a medal after a successful weekend at the World Championships in Canada.
And Claudia Fragapani put her Strictly Come Dancing training of last year to very good use in her fantastic floor routine. I'm delighted to say she's here in the studio to tell us all about it. What's that you're clutching?
My bronze medal. I'm so happy about it, and it obviously took a lot of hard work, and before doing finals I never used to do as well, and it used to be really heartbreaking, and I was always missed out by just a little bit, so it's nice to actually go to my third Worlds and get a bronze medal.
This is your very first individual medal, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Did you get to the end of the routine and think, I've done enough to get that medal, I think this has clinched it?
I was very 50-50 on it, just because the first tumble I did step on it. But then the other three I landed completely dead and didn't move, so I was really happy about that. But then I was sat there afterwards and I was so worried because I thought, well, there's so many other gymnasts going up after me, and I was so nervous that I was going to be fourth or something, and I come out on third.
There you were on the podium.
Well, and it was just amazing to watch it. But did your Strictly training sort of feed into this?
Yeah, it did. I obviously learned different dance techniques and used different face expressions. So AJ, which was my partner on Strictly, he was like, just use your face more, do different face expressions and just be really confident in everything that you do. And it really did help doing the shows and obviously being live in front of millions of people.
Yeah. It's a completely different kind of pressure, isn't it? I mean, you've been really busy, you've been training and you've been out in Montreal. Have you had much of a chance to watch any Strictly this year?
I watched a little bit of it actually. I went on obviously the Strictly page on Twitter and Instagram and I had a little sneak peek, and it was really, really nice to actually see. You can see all their really good footwork. They're amazing this year, but I feel like we're even better than last year.
Yeah. And your guy AJ, who's he dancing with this year?
Molly King. Yeah, she's really good. Every week I can see that she's improving, so it's quite good.
Because you know that he's exactly his kind of way of teaching, and you think she's picking up on his expertise.
Yeah, he's a very tough teacher as well, and he's very specific, so that's really good about him.
Well, you definitely sound like you've been keeping up with it. Do you have a tip for your favourite? Because you know what makes a good dancer.
I do think Aston and Jeanette are very talented. Aston, even in week one, you can see that he's doing all the really good techniques and stuff, and his footwork is amazing, and his hip movement. And obviously he is a dancer, but I don't think he's a dancer with someone else, so he had to obviously really work on that, and he's doing amazing.
Yeah.
You're amazing too. I mean, it's hard to sort of remember really that you're not yet 20, are you? You're still a teenager, and look what you've achieved in your life.
I know, it is pretty incredible. I was obviously in the past not so confident because people told me that I'm not going to get anywhere really, and my coaches Helen and Rory and all the Bristol Hawks team back at home just kept pushing me and said, look, you can get there, ignore everyone else. So obviously the British Gymnastics has really supported me, the whole of the team, so I'm really, really happy and grateful.
Brilliant.
well, just because you're unsung heroes. We're going to talk about an unsung hero, people who help behind the scene. Have you got anyone who has been there specifically, who you can say, look, if it wasn't for him or her, I wouldn't be here?
There's quite a lot of people, really. My first training session at Bristol Hawks, I saw this gymnast called Rianne Pure. She was European bar champion, and she was an incredible gymnast. And what I liked about her is she worked really hard. She was unique as well, and I'm one of those people that doesn't like to copy other people's things, and she was just stood out for me. Just wanted to be just like her. Obviously, I'm not a bar worker, but I'm a floor worker, which I'm pleased about. And just everyone in general, all of my Bristol Hawks team, we all work together and we work very hard.
Great. Always a pleasure to have you on the programme. We're looking forward to hearing more success from you. But talking of those unsung heroes, Amanda's got some details, haven't you, Amanda?
Yeah, well, you are very welcome to get in touch. There are about 10 days left to put your nominations in any kind of activities whatsoever, someone that's really inspired you. You just have to go to bbc.co.uk/unsung hero.
Talking of unsung heroes, up on a drafty roof, there's Ian.
Hello there, David, Amanda, everybody. Actually, it's not too drafty up here and the skies are clear at the moment. Let me take through a forecast into tomorrow then. We'll find overnight that cloud increases and the legacy of that will be a good deal of cloud around, for the most part at least, through the course of Friday. Most areas will be staying dry, just a little bit of light rain perhaps in one or two areas out towards the far west. But for all of us, as well as being a breezy day, it'll inherently be a noticeably warm and quite humid day. And that's because if we take a wider look at things, we have a change of air mass taking place overnight and into tomorrow, dragging up from the southwest. Some moisture air, yes, but it'll certainly be a good deal warmer where the sun breaks through. If indeed it does, you'll find that all the more noticeable compared to where we'd normally be for this time of year. With pressure higher towards the south-southeast, the British Isles, fronts are being squeezed away towards the northwest of us. So we're just on the peripheral boundary, perhaps, of a little light rain, as I said, as you get further westwards during the course of tomorrow. Now, I mentioned the cloud will tend to increase through the course of the night. It's looking effectively dry, certainly for the vast majority, maybe a little bit of drizzly rain here or there, nothing more than that. And temperatures will be somewhere about 12 or 13 Celsius to get us underway tomorrow. And really, the tone is set from the morning onwards. Yes, there'll be some areas of brighter or sunnier weather perhaps poking through, but always competing with a lot of cloud. You will see the signal there for perhaps the far west of Exham or maybe the Forest of Dean to just occasionally catch a little bit of light rain, but certainly no great amounts. I don't think it offsets an otherwise overwhelmingly dry day, with temperatures at least into the high teens, even under the cloud cover. Saturday, lighter winds, good deal of cloud, but again, it'll be warm. There we go.
It's going to be nice. Ian, thank you. This is where we leave you.
It is, but we're back tomorrow. Take care. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.